The illusion of AI reasoning. Are we scaling the wrong mountain?
We're just at the beginning of the reasoning AI era.
I think we'll get superintelligence, and I would guess that it will be a continuation of this trend that humanity has been on for 100+ years.
Picture a future where machines don't just autocomplete our emails, but craft strategies, draft laws, maybe even plot the trajectory of humanity itself. Venture capital is flooding in, hyperscale clouds are racing to expand, and every headline seems to scream the same prophecy. Reasoning AI will unlock superintelligence. But what if that prophecy is built on a mirage? What if the reasoning revolution is less a paradigm shift and more a well-lit illusion, shimmering just long enough to keep the money flowing? It wouldn't be the first time Silicon Valley mistook a flashy demo for a scientific breakthrough. Hold that thought, because once we peel back the marketing, the story of modern AI starts to look a lot less inevitable and a lot more precarious. For years, critics dismissed language models as stochastic parrots, systems that remix text with no real understanding. Tech giants fired back with a new buzzword: reasoning. These models, they said, wouldn't just regurgitate, they would think, show their work, break down problems, plan multiple moves ahead. OpenAI boasted GPT-4o, Anthropic dropped Opus-4, Google countered with Gemini 2 Flash. Each launch trailer came with a louder promise. This time the model actually reasons. Investors cheered, GPUs sold out, and chipmaker stocks soared. Everyone from Wall Street analysts to late-night hosts agreed. Thinking machines were here. Human-level logic was next. Some research labs even filmed chain-of-thought visualizations, glowing vectors flickering like neurons in a sci-fi movie. Proof, at least aesthetically, that reflection had arrived. Then Apple, of all companies, lobbed the first grenade. In a bluntly titled paper, The Illusion of Thinking, its researchers set out a series of logic tests. The humble Towers of Hanoi, with disks stacked from big to small, became their crucible. Add disks, one by one, and watch what happens. Up to 5 disks? Models cruised. 7 disks? Sudden collapse. Zero accuracy across Anthropic, DeepSeek, and OpenAI's finest. What looked like robust reasoning turned out to be sophisticated pattern matching. As soon as a puzzle left the training comfort zone, performance flatlined. It was as if the models mistook the exam for a déjà vu quiz, and any genuine novelty short-circuited the illusion. Research on research soon confirmed the finding with river-crossing games, Sudoku variants, even simple algebra word problems. Apple wasn't alone. A Salesforce team coined a new phrase for this brittleness: jagged intelligence, a sawtooth graph of brilliance one moment, faceplant the next. Their public benchmark, simple, featured high school-level riddles. Models aced some, bombed others, and offered no warning which way a real-world task might fall. If your enterprise is betting its supply chain, its compliance workflows, or its healthcare triage on these models, jaggedness isn't just inconvenient, it's existential. Imagine a self-driving car that's flawless with lane keeping, but forgets how to brake when the sun angle changes. Anthropic doubled down on self-critique with reasoning models don't always say what they think. In plain English, even when the model can solve a puzzle internally, it often spits out the wrong answer because the chain of thought it generates is noisy, half-formed, or misranked.
Well, on benchmarks, we can make it do really well on specific tasks. And that's valuable. We have a lot of agents who want to do specific tasks. I think the thing that's not well understood, and that some of those papers you allude to show, is that it doesn't generalize. So yeah, while it might be really good at this task, it's awful at very common sense things that you and I would do in our sleep. And that's, I think, a fundamental limitation of the reasoning models right now.
The very feature advertised as proof of thinking, showing its work, turns out to obscure whether any thinking occurred at all. AI's modern faith is the scaling law. Double parameters, harvest more data, watch error rates drop. It worked for vision, translation, dialogue, until late 2024. Progress in benchmark performance began to plateau, and frantic labs looked to reasoning as the escape hatch. If predictive text had hit diminishing returns, maybe planning and reflection would deliver the next S-curve. But scaling comes at a cost measured in terawatt-hours and eye-watering cloud invoices. One MIT study pegged training a frontier model at the carbon footprint of 5 round-trip flights to the moon. You can only burn that kind of fuel for so long before shareholders or regulators start to ask uncomfortable questions. Apple's paper suggests the escape hatch might be welded shut. Worse, the more a task demands genuine abstraction, the faster current models stall. The industry could be discovering a law of its own. Memorization scales, reasoning doesn't. None of this slowed the hardware frenzy. NVIDIA's Jensen Huang told analysts that agentic reasoning will require a 100-fold increase in computation over standard LLMs.
The amount of computation necessary to do that reasoning process is 100 times more than what we used to do.
Music to the ears of every data center builder on Earth. Boards nodded and signed off on billion-dollar GPU clusters. But those clusters assume the scaling creed holds. If reasoning plateaus, all that silicon might end up mining shallow pattern space for pennies on the dollar. Jamie Dimon warns that AI is table stakes even if the benefit isn't immediately clear.
We now spend about $2 billion on AI. We have something like 600 actual in-use cases. That number will probably double next year and maybe triple.
Translation: every Fortune 500 firm now feels compelled to buy reasoning models just to avoid looking obsolete. Yet field results remain hazy. McKinsey's latest Tech Pulse survey found that fewer than 15% of generative AI pilots reach full production, and a third get scrapped altogether. Insurance adjusters still audit every AI claim by hand. Retail chatbots freeze when asked to explain a price change. Legal teams keep the human in the loop because hallucinations still slip through. The ROI case rests on a promise that smarter reasoning is imminent. What if imminent means 5 years, or never? Critics argue Apple's doom and gloom is self-serving. Cupertino lagged, so Cupertino moved the goalposts. Anthropic fired back with the illusion of thinking, claiming Apple cherry-picked puzzles and ignored newer fine-tuning tricks. But the number of labs ringing alarm bells is growing, and the debate has morphed into a high-stakes spin war. Whoever defines intelligence may dictate who gets to declare AGI, unlock partnerships, or trigger profit-sharing clauses worth billions. Once superintelligence sounded lurking, just 1 or 2 breakthroughs over the horizon. Now skeptics inside the field whisper a different timeline: decades. A major business school meta-analysis labeled today's systems engines of linguistic association, brilliant at mimicry, terrible at novel logic. The frontier hasn't moved, our rulers just got finer. We can make a model unbeatable at Towers of Hanoi, but the real world is an infinite set of towers the model has never seen. Train on all of them? Impossible. So we're back to the same ancient question: can intelligence emerge from scaling alone, or does it require a different paradigm altogether? Reasoning was pitched as AI's next giant leap. Instead, it is exposing a deeper truth. Current architectures excel at recognizing, not understanding. We may be building taller ladders when what we need is a new kind of wings. If you're an investor, that means recalculating risk. If you're an engineer, that means daring to rethink foundations. If you're a policymaker, that means drafting guardrails before the hype train outruns reality. And if you're an everyday user, it means staying skeptical of marketing that sells magic where only math exists. So here's the part they don't put in the launch keynotes. AI is still, fundamentally, an experiment. The question isn't how high we can scale, but how far we can generalize. Until that day comes, reasoning may remain the most expensive optical illusion in tech history. I'm glad you joined me on this journey. If you found it illuminating, consider hitting that subscribe button. Let's keep probing the frontier together. Until then, stay curious. This is Jump to Future, and I'll see you again soon.